And we end the show with a tit-for-tat diplomacy move from Ghana. The country has deported 3 Israeli nationals who landed in Accra on Wednesday. They say they've been compelled to retaliate over what Israel started. Ghanaian authorities have stated this move is a direct response to the alleged mistreatment of Ghanaian travelers in Tel Aviv earlier this month.
All right, welcome to This Week in Ghana, your twice monthly live stream where we talk about all things around the country of Ghana and sometimes on the continent of Africa. I will turn it over to our co-host before I introduce myself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ivy Prosper, and it's a pleasure to once again be here live with Joe Hatagwa from Authentic African. I tell stories from Africa and the African diaspora. On my channel, I share information about Ghana and sometimes stories about other parts of Africa. I also share information about real estate if you're looking to buy or to rent property or land in Ghana. I share a lot of information about that. I also give you tips on moving to Ghana stress-free, knowing things that you need to know before you make the move. And I also share travel information about Ghana as well, with the intention of expanding beyond Ghana in the near future. I also offer consultations on Ghana. The link is in my video description that you can tap to book a consultation, as well as I have a book called Your Essential Guide on Moving to Ghana, which is available on Amazon. The link is also in my video description. You can tap that to purchase that book. Or if you just want to support the channel, you can do that through Super Chat by tapping the $sign in the chat to make your support. As well, if you want to make a direct donation through PayPal, you can tap the link in my description box for PayPal support. Or through Zelle, there is an email, info@ivyprosper.com, to send support through Zelle. As a content creator, many of us like to use PayPal, Zelle, and other ways to get support because it goes directly to the creator. When you do the super chat and the super thanks, YouTube actually takes 30% of that. So if you've sent $10 on a live stream to someone through YouTube, that creator is getting $7 because Google is taking $3. So that's why sometimes it's great to support the creator directly so that they can get the support they need to continue the work that they are doing. Excited to be here today to have this conversation with breaking news from Ghana.
Awesome. And I am Joe Hatagwa from Authentic African. Our goal is to get people to do one of 3 things or 2 of 3 things. Visit, move, and invest on the continent of Africa. We're bridging the gap between those living in Africa and those living in the diaspora. You can check all of that out on my website. It's AuthenticAfrican.com. We also have merch for sale. The merch does say all things related to showing your pride about the continent of Africa. So we have stuff with Stolen from Africa and just calling out the colonizers of Europe. And also we have some things around the Moors and their ruling of Europe for the time period that they did, 700 years or so. So if you're interested in any of that, you can go to the website and find it there. All right, so today we have a number of stories that we are going to be covering. First of which you saw at the onset, and that is Ghana deporting Israelis in retaliation for alleged mistreatment of Ghanaians in Tel Aviv. I'm going to play a little bit more of this video, and then we will have some commentary on the other side.
Tel Aviv. Earlier this month, 7 Ghanaians were detained at Israel's Ben Gurion Airport. 4 of them were staff from the parliamentary service attending a cybersecurity conference. Accra says their citizens were held for 5 hours without a justifiable explanation. 3 of them were deported, while the rest were released after intense diplomatic pressure. Ghana's foreign minister called the treatment humiliating. He also summoned Israeli embassy officials in Accra and demanded respect for their citizens. His directive was plain and simple: 1 Israeli for every Ghanaian sent back.
The Israeli authorities have now apologized for the action they carried out and have called for de-escalation because we made it clear that if they deported 10 Ghanaians, we will deport 10, 20 will deport 20, 50 will deport 50. We are not going to accept this.
And according to Ghana, the row is linked to Israeli accusations that it wasn't cooperating over deportation procedures. Earlier this year, Israel blamed Ghana's Tel Aviv embassy for not cooperating on 6 deportations. One involved a Gabonese national, another was too sick to travel. Ghana rejects that entirely. Their embassy insists it follows international law completely. The tensions also come against the backdrop of Accra's outspoken stance on the Israel-Hamas conflict. The West African nation has always maintained support for a 2-state solution.
Okay, so I think that point that was made there at the very end is likely why things happened the way they did in Tel Aviv. But your thoughts on this story, Ivy?
Well, you know, it's hard to really have strong thoughts on it, because I know that there have been, you know, different reports where I see different speculations, different information to know what the hard facts are. But what I do know is from reading, like from the BBC, that it confirmed that 3 Israeli nationals were deported from Ghana. I believe it was on Wednesday, and that it does appear to be in retaliation to the Ghanaian nationals who were held and deported from Israel. Now, I don't know the specific details of what happened in Israel for the Ghanaian nationals, but I feel like this is an example of what's been happening around the world. We've been seeing situations of people from different countries being held, being deported, having legal challenges. I feel like we're in a world right now where there's a lot of countries that are having a sense of nationalism. There's anti-immigrant sentiment in some places. You're seeing some countries that don't like tourism who are protesting against tourists. Like, there's so many different factors as to what's happening around the world with respect to people wanting to hold on to their country's pride and nationality that could be factors to it. So I know that the Ghanaian government, you know, is investigating the situation, but I don't know what the actual details are on the outcome of the investigations happening right now. They're saying that they're taking the actions very seriously, from what I understand, and they feel that Ghanaians shouldn't be unfairly targeted. So I know that this is going to be an ongoing investigation.
Absolutely, and yeah. So this particular video cited, you know, the Israeli stance that there were 2 particular individuals, someone who was too sick to travel, and another person that was a Gabonese national, that apparently they stated that Ghana did not comply. I will say that I have seen President Mahama be very vocal in his support of Palestine. I don't know about the individuals who had traveled to Israel and their support of Palestine, but I do know that those who have been supportive have been treated similarly. This is a pattern in Israel for how people who have been in support of Palestine have been treated. So I would not be surprised if that had a lot to do with that particular, you know, that stance that the country has been taking. I will say too, you know, I'm sure more information will be coming out over the coming weeks. I do think it is important that if something like this does happen, there's a show of force, you know, and you know, this particular, you know, news station or First Post said that this was a tit for tat. And I don't think in every circumstance it works, but I think for Israel, it matters because they're in need of support from different nations for the atrocities that they've been involved in over the last 24 months or so. And so I do think that as their support has dwindled, it does put Ghana in a position of strength in this particular instance on the deportation and the response. Generally, it doesn't always have that same kind of impact. Like, there's been some threats by African countries to, for instance, the United States. When the United States has made visa restrictions, that hasn't been helpful. But I think in this instance, it seems as if Israel has capitulated, has apologized, according to some officials from the Ghanaian government. And so it seems to be working. So we'll follow along with this and keep you guys all posted. You can see how careful I am with my words, because I'd like to stay alive and I'd like to stay monetized. And so you guys have to understand, we have to be very careful when we talk about this topic. So
yeah,
I will leave.
It's actually a topic that I thought about even avoiding completely.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we all have our stances, right? And we have to be very careful because, there's a lot of talk, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there's a lot of talk about dual citizens potentially losing the ability to have citizenship elsewhere as an American. I am one of those people. There's talk about checking people's social media before they enter the country, right?
Yeah.
So, that makes presenting this kind of information to you all, which is really important, difficult to do. And so that's why your support for us outside of the social media platforms will help go a long way for us to be able to continue to bring this information to you without having to worry about being censored. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about, how you want to support us. Just remember that, we are limited to what we can really talk about on platforms like this, but the platforms are big enough to give us the broadest reach to be able to get to as many of you as we can with this kind of information. With that, we will move on to the next story. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Jada just says, loving that tit for tat. Sometimes us Africans forget we got teeth and we got to bite back. There's Jada. So an interesting story. I think we reported on this maybe 2 live streams ago, where there has been a crackdown on cybercrime in Ghana. You guys might remember we had talked about, there was a story that talked about like the government's, approach to cracking down on what is called 419, Yahoo Boys, etc. This term is 419 is the Nigerian penal code for fraud. And so it's kind of picked up that name, and people use that name across West Africa when they're describing fraud, even though maybe every country doesn't have the same penal code, they still use it to describe it. And then also too, Yahoo Boys just references in the early 2000s, the Yahoo email addresses were the first to be widely used in places where some of these scams had originated from. And so that was the reason for being called Yahoo Boys, because they were using Yahoo email addresses to do those print scams, bank account scams. You've probably seen these emails in your Yahoo email address. You know what I'm talking about. And so that's why it's called Yahoo Boys and 419 scams. So the biggest of these was a few years ago, a gentleman by the name of Hush Puppy, that I can't remember his real name, but that was his online persona, 3 million followers, friends with all the major Afrobeats artists. He is currently is in, if I'm not mistaken, he's in Brooklyn, but he's definitely in New York City in the United States, serving out was it a 6-year sentence, or was it a 6 to 12-year sentence? I can't remember exactly what it was, for this exact offense. And so Ghana has been cracking down on this, and there's a story that speaks to the fact that a Ghanaian national and 32 others, it seems like in separate but similar instances, were accused by authorities, in this case, this Ghanaian national, of $8 million romance scam, allegedly linked to a massive luxury mansion in Ghana. So I'm going to play this video and maybe another quick video just with the response from the the minister in charge of this, so you guys can get a chance to kind of see what exactly the lifestyle was looking like for individuals who had been participating in this illicit activity.
Here's one of the biggest mansions in Africa, Ghana. Abu Trica's house inside Swedru.
Okay, so they're saying this is his house. This gentleman was living large, as you can see. And then I just want to take you to the minister's response really quickly, because I do think it's important to hear from them directly what exactly has been going on and what the plan is. I think I have it here.
You realize that just yesterday, one of my agencies, the Cybersecurity Authority, picked up an individual who is supposed to be successful. There's no peace with that kind of success. And there are 3 more we're picking up in the next few days because we're cracking down on cybercrime. And so cybercrime does not pay. But education is the only thing nobody can take away from you. They can take all you have. They can take your cars, your houses away from you. But what you know and what you've learned cannot be taken away from you. And so education is the priceless gift that a child can get from their parents.
So there he is speaking to that. And then this was the other 32 individuals linked to the romance scam syndicate in the early hours of 2 days ago, over the weekend. They were picked up. And so just to be clear, these romance scams, basically the way it was described is using AI to pretend to be other people, speaking to folks who are older, lonely individuals, and scamming them out of money, whether giving them access to credit cards and or asking them for financial assistance. But many times it really does come down to getting them to fall in love with the individual and then basically taking them for what you can. And so that is what they were accused of, and that's the story there. So with that, Ivy, your thoughts on the cybercrime unit making these massive arrests in the last couple of days, 1 Ghanaian and what it seems to be is a number of also Nigerian nationals as well.
I think that it's a testament to the Ghana police and their cybercrime unit to show that they actually are taking things like this very seriously and showing that they have the capacity to investigate and to actually catch some of the people who are doing things that actually is affecting the livelihood of people around the world. Because imagine you're a person, whether you're an elderly or young person, whoever, and you get taken advantage of because of your emotions, and then somebody manages to convince you to give up your life savings, to give up, money to someone that you thought was someone you cared for. It's really good that they're showing that they're able to catch these people. And it also shows people who are trying to do this as well that watch out, because you could be next to get caught and to be arrested for doing such things. So I think it's good that they're able to do this right now, because in the past, I don't think they did it so easily as they are now. So I think it's really good. It shows that they're beefing up their capacity. I had also met somebody from the cybercrime unit, because I had an incident a few years ago where somebody had sent a message with a death threat. And so I had actually gone to Ghana Cybersecurity, and they had done their investigation. When I sat down with the guy and he told me about their training and what they do, I was actually impressed. I was like, wow, I did not know that Ghana's cybercrime unit, was so intense. And he had said that some of them have trained under, US training systems. Some of them who are able to travel, he said, travel to the US for their training. So I'm confident that when they really put their mind to it, that they actually have the capacity to do some of these things, which clearly we're seeing from this type of arrest happening.
Absolutely. And I'll give some anecdotal insight into my personal experience. As I mentioned, I will limit the exact experience, but I will say someone formerly close to me had someone formerly close to them who happened to be one of these Nigerian nationals living in Ghana perpetrating this same scam. I don't know if he was picked up as one of these people, but from what I understand, I don't know him personally, but he was close to somebody I used to be close to. What I do know is the way these things work is these guys will rent a house and they'll have 6 or 7 younger guys working for them and having multiple phones, multiple apps, Tinder, all the different apps, change their IP addresses and or sometimes utilize, the fact that they are in Africa. But many times they don't use themselves, right? They use images of other people. The old school version of this was they would catfish them, right? They would use images, but always say, the connection here is so bad, I can't get online. I think because of shows like Catfish and then technology improving, they've now moved to AI. So they can no longer last 6 to 12 months with someone without ever having a video call. I think people are hip to that now. So they've now moved into using AI avatars, right? Where they can look like they're the one speaking, but someone else is actually the person speaking, but it's somebody completely different looking, showing up on camera. And it is, we are there now. And so when you're dealing with folks who are, older boomers or even older Generation X, closer to the boomer stage, you're finding folks who aren't as savvy on these kinds of things. And to be honest with you, I mean, there are people recently as high up as certain levels in government in the United States who've also pushed out AI misinformation mistakenly. So it is not rare that there are people that are going to be falling for this stuff. But from my understanding, these individuals have giant windfalls. I mean, sometimes they can get $10,000 at a time, $15,000 at a time. And the guys running the scam with all the people working under them pay those guys just a housing fee. And those guys just get to be around you to learn from you. And then they go off and do it themselves. But the person who's running it gets to keep all the money. And so when you're traveling here and you go to the club and you see people who look like some of the biggest rappers you've ever seen with the iced out chains and the big watches and the big bracelets, you can probably guess what their method of income generation is. And so, it's been a well-known topic. It's been something that people kind of whisper about, talk about amongst each other. It's not something that's seen publicly discussed as much, but you see it now. It's being, it's to the forefront of this particular government in Ghana, and they are cracking down. So, as you said, Ivy, I think these arrests show as a deterrent for other people who think that they can get away with it. Many people leave their country and do it in other countries because their countries have figured out how to track these kinds of things. And so now you see them in Ghana attempting to do it, but now Ghana is not standing for it. So yeah. I don't know if you have any other thoughts, but those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you said a lot of things that are accurate, especially with the whole AI thing. People are able to do things to fake calls. I had an incident where there was, I rarely respond to random messages. I get a lot of messages from men in my DMs on all my social media. And I don't respond to 99.9%. I don't respond. And so one of them, somebody sent a message, and then I was like, you know what? Let me just respond to this one person. And so I responded. The person just said that they liked my content. So I responded and said, thanks. And then next thing I know, he's now complimenting me, saying I'm attractive and all this kind of stuff. And then he was, pushing that he wanted to chat and all this kind of stuff. And anyway, I ended up doing, I have this investigative thing about me. I was able to check with the photo he had in his profile, because you can upload images to Google Images and search. So I uploaded his image to Google Images, and the Google search showed 10 other profiles that had the same guy's picture. And then there was a video of the same guy on another platform. And it was just like, just the whole long thing. I was like, yeah, this guy's a fraudster. And then I didn't engage. I just blocked him. So, you know, if you take the time to try to figure out if this person's legit or not, you can usually find out if the person's fake, and ask certain questions. I think that not only in romance scams, but in general, people get scammed on, you know, through their WhatsApp, through social media. You know, you hear about people's Instagram getting hacked, and it could be, you know, a link someone sent, you know, any little thing. Be suspicious. So for instance, I have a friend who usually communicates with me on WhatsApp or on Instagram. Then all of a sudden, this friend started sending me text messages. And I'm like, this person doesn't send me text messages. This is very unusual. And immediately I was like, this person's phone must have been stolen or something, that now the person is texting me, which is unusual behavior. And so we always have to ask ourselves, like, think about the people you know. Is this behavior normal? You know, is it out of the ordinary? And then you can kind of start asking questions. And it was like, I don't think this is the person. I think it's someone else, you know? So be on high alert, be aware of people's behaviors, because, you know, these kinds of scams can happen, not just romance scams, but just in general, these kinds of things are happening, especially on WhatsApp. You know, recently my aunt's WhatsApp was hacked, and then the person started sending me messages and asked me to send them 900 Ghana cedis. And I was like, this aunt of mine would never ask me for 900 Ghana cedis. She would never ask me for money. And so then when I started asking questions, I was like, when's my birthday? Like, start asking these questions that if the person knows you, they would know some of these answers. And I'm like, I just talked to you yesterday. What did we talk about? Then suddenly the person's like not responding, because now they're realizing I'm checking to see if you're really who you say you are, you know?
Right.
So yeah, ask yourself questions before you really engage.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I'll just add one more piece to that before we move on to the next story. So those of you who are traveling to West Africa, to Africa in general, international travel, you're going to start using WhatsApp more, right? You can become a part of the WhatsApp culture. Things get forwarded all right. People love to forward stuff. And then the other thing is, you're going to be joining a lot of different groups, and you want to be in groups. What a lot of these groups are open to the public. They don't require, not everyone requires a verification before people enter their groups. Because of that, bad actors join these groups, and then they utilize things that are happening in those groups to message you. It's another form of a phishing scam. I don't know if you guys are familiar with phishing scams, but sometimes somebody will send you an email. It looks like your email address. It's a little bit different, but it's like your payroll or something like that. You click on it, you don't get your pay stub, and then you kind of forget about it. Well, 6 months down the line, they now have information. They've now combed through your emails, and they might email the finance team and pretend to be a client and say the bank account changed. And this happens all the time. So a similar version of that happens on WhatsApp. They'll join a group, and let's say the group has an event coming up, or Zoom coming up, or they have an event you have to register for. So they'll look for that registration, and then they'll send you a private message and say to you, hey, you forgot to register. You need to register now, or else you won't be able to get in. And just think about any time somebody uses a sense of urgency like that, when they don't normally do that, right? Yeah. So you need to do this now. If you don't do this now, you're not going to be able to get on this trip. You're not going to be able to do this. You know, all the different ways that they try to use a sense of urgency to get you to move now. Because if you sit down to think about it, you're going to maybe make a different decision. So they use a sense of urgency and a fear of loss to get you to make that decision. Yeah. Once they do that, that's when you end up getting messages like what Ivy mentioned, or messages like what I got. So you guys might remember Aisha Ladan, who has been on the channel before. We went through what the conversation looked like between the person who had hacked her account and what they said to me. And I think it was also because she had been in a group and she clicked on a link. And then another friend of mine Same thing happened with her. She was in another group. I get these messages all the time. I'm in about like 50 different groups on WhatsApp. So I get messages all the time. One thing to be wary of is the 234 area code. Country code. The 234 country code a lot of times gives it away. I just put it that way. When you get messages from people to tell you to click on a link, number one. Number two, if you get a message from someone who says, hey, how are you? How's the family? Very generic messages. I got those messages and I was like, I'm good. I'm just planning them, this and that, whatever. How are you doing? And when the responses don't directly correlate to your question, it's almost like a script. That's something to pay attention to. And to your point, if they start asking for money in ways like, I'll promise they pay you back by tomorrow. Can you just send me 200 or 900 or 1,000? I was asked for $2,000 by somebody through one of these before. And so obviously those are red flags. And so these are all ways that are outside of the romance scam that people use. And, certain things just will be a red flag. Like for me, both of these people were married women asking me for money. And so at first I was like, something must be going on in the family. But I was like, no, I don't think I'd be the person you would go to, either one of them. They have they have a long list of people they can go to before they get to me. And that's the other thing to think about is like, who else could they have gone to before they got to you, especially in these instances? And so I immediately screenshot it, sent it to them, through separate means, right? So the first one, I couldn't do that with her because it's the only means of communication I had with her. The second one, I sent it to a friend and said, hey, don't send any money to this person and make sure you call her and let her know on whatever other phone line you have for her, if you can call her direct or whatever, to let her know what's happening because somebody hacked her account. And so luckily she had gotten a couple of phone calls and something seemed off. And so that was a way for them to find out. So so these things happen frequently. So definitely don't click on any links that you're not aware of. One way to be 100% sure is if you just get a random link from someone, never click it. If somebody sends me a random link out of nowhere, even if they're used to sending me stuff, because almost everybody who sends me something with context, right? Like people will send me stuff they want me to post on Authentic African. They usually send it with context. They don't just send a link. So if you just get a random link, you should probably respond back like, what is this link of, right? And then you can go from there to determine if you're going to actually click on the link. So that is a recommendation I make. It's a long diatribe, but I think it's important for you guys who are all thinking about coming to the continent. We're going to be using WhatsApp. These are things that are going to happen that you need to protect yourself from. All right. With that, I think we can move on to the next story. So Ivy, having been a part of the Year of Return and Beyond the Return, is all too familiar with the idea of visa on arrival. I feel like every year for a couple of years in a row, there was an announcement that visa on arrivals was happening. And I think that people assumed that was going to happen in perpetuity, right? Just the idea that every year in December, visa on arrival is going to happen when I get to Ghana. That is not the case this year. And we are going to play a video from a couple who live here I'm in Sierra Leone, who live there in Ghana, yes, exactly. I think so. I actually only know them as Expat Life Ghana. That's them, right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So we're going to play a video from her because she did speak to this. It's kind of entertaining. It's interesting. But I think it does speak to the fact that I think a lot of people assume that things are going to be the same every year because you've been doing everything every year. When it comes to the continent, don't assume. Never assume. Always check. But I do want to play this video and then we will have some commentary on the other side.
Don't come to Ghana, at least not without a visa. Everyone's talking about how you can just visa on arrival right now. Like you can just show up at the airport, no big deal, just walk right in and you'll be fine. Lies. All of them are lies. Listen, you cannot show up at the airport and just get a visa right there to get on your plane. Your airline will not let you on board. You have got to have a pre-approval to get a visa on arrival. There is no visa-free travel to Ghana right now. You cannot visa on arrival and just show up at the airport. You have to have your visa situated before you get on the plane. So before you pack anything else, before you start WhatsApping your friends and telling them that you're coming, you need to stop right now and make sure your visa is taken care of. I'll see you in Ghana soon.
So it's funny. I was gonna do a video as well. Then I actually saw her video earlier today. I saw her video and I was like, oh, great way to go, Ayo. Yeah, I keep getting messages from people every day for the last few weeks asking me if visa on arrival is happening. Has visa on arrival started yet? When is visa on arrival happening? And it's because over the last few years, since the year of return, Ghana has been doing the visa on arrival for anybody coming to Ghana during the December in Ghana Deti December season. Usually from December 1st until January 15th is when it's been happening, you know, over the last few years. But now with the new government, there is no visa on arrival this year. And a lot of people, if you've not gotten your visas before coming to Ghana, I wish you luck, because sometimes it can be a challenge getting your visa on time. A lot of people, when they're coming to Ghana, have complained in the past about trying to get their visa in time and it not coming when it's supposed to. Then you find out about these last minute situations that people are having to change their flights because they didn't come in time. So if you've not gotten it by now and you were planning on coming this month, I wish you luck, because you may not be able to come. It's quite possible. If you don't already have your visa, you can certainly try and get an express one, but know that there's a possibility it could delay, which means you could end up delaying your plans to come to Ghana. Yeah.
Great point. Yes. And so, you know, for context, I think I spoke about this maybe last week or 2 weeks ago. There's an expectation of at least 1.5 to 1.7 million people or so to visit Ghana this year. I don't know how many of them are expected to be in December, but we do know the largest number of people who visit, according to the reports that I've read, come from the United States. And many people who watch these live streams are from the United States. And so that would mean there would be a huge backlog of people trying to get visas to get in, because everybody's finding out last minute that you can't do visa on arrival like they had been doing the last few years. So there are ways to get expedited visas. You can pay a little extra. I've never had to get a visa to go to Ghana. So to be honest with you, I don't know the process. Google it. So, you know, since I've been going to Ghana, I've never had to have a visa, put it that way. I would have had to, but I've already been an ECOWAS citizen, so I don't need a visa. So I do definitely recommend you look into expedited services if you need to get it done. There are people on the ground who offer services. I don't know how much faster that'll happen. I'm not going to give any recommendations right now. I say, you know, look it up online. I'm going to look into some of the resources that I've talked to previously. If I can offer those as resources, we'll put them in the comments as a follow-up to this video. But if you don't have your visa already and you're planning to come this weekend, you might want to rethink your plans, right? It is going to be very challenging. Very, very challenging.
Yeah, there are some travel companies that have made arrangements to help people getting visa on arrival when they've already booked packages with them, because sometimes they actually have a contact within Ghana immigration that is supporting them when they have, you know, large groups that are coming. There are some that do that for their groups, but you will have to find your local Ghana embassy or consulate to get information on applying for a visa. Some of them, there are online services that you can fill out a form, but then you still have to physically send your passport in to get the visa sticker in your passport. And a lot of the fees are based on which country you're coming from, because I know that there's slight variations from country to country for the Ghana visa. Also, you can pay additional fees to have it express, but sometimes the express doesn't always come to fruition. There have been people who've complained about paying for express and then not actually getting express service. Part of the process of getting a Ghana visa, they ask you have to have the yellow fever vaccination, which sometimes is a hindrance for people in getting their Ghana visa, because the yellow fever vaccination, there are limited places that give that vaccination, and you often have to book it ahead of time. And some places there's weeks and weeks before you can even get an appointment to get the yellow fever shot in some countries. And the fees are quite high. I've heard of people talking about paying between $200 to $300 to get the yellow fever vaccination. Now, Ghana has the yellow fever vaccination on arrival, but the problem is your airline will probably not even let you board your flight if you don't have the yellow fever vaccination, proof of vaccination. So some people have been able to, by chance, be able to board, and then when they arrive in Ghana, get the yellow fever shot at the airport, but that's really risky. The chances of you being allowed to even board is very low. Typically, people who have special certificates from a medical certificate, like if you have a medical condition where you can't take the yellow fever shot, you would have to get a certified medical certificate from a medical facility, your doctor, to prove why you couldn't get the yellow fever vaccination. Also, Ghana visa application asks you to have an invitation letter attached to your application. Now, that invitation letter would be if you're going to be staying with somebody or visiting someone, that person would write a letter as they are going to be your host while you're in Ghana. If you don't have a host because you're a tourist and you don't know anybody in Ghana, then that would be something from your hotel or Airbnb host, whoever it is at wherever you're staying. They would have to have a letter or a document stating that you're going to be hosted at their apartment, their hotel, their guest house, whatever it may be. So that's also something that gets added to the application. You also need to get passport size pictures that are included in the application. I think it's either 4 or 6 passport pictures that they ask for to be included in the application. So those are some of the things that you need. And then your passport from your home country must be at least 6 months away from its expiry date, or you wouldn't be able to apply for the Ghana visa. So those are just a few tips to help you, those of you who are applying for a Ghana visa, that you need to know. Yeah. Hope that helps.
All very exciting, good information. See, I love having these conversations with you because you have all of the details. So yeah, for those of you who are planning to come, think about all those things that you need, right? Your Airbnb host who might already be hosting somebody right now in the middle of communicating with them is now going to have to step away from what they're doing and put something together for you, because many people stay in Airbnbs. Your hotel might be booked and busy, as they say, and so you're going to have to reach out to them and get something from them. So wherever you're staying, needing that information is going to be really, really, really important.
Right.
Yeah.
And keep in mind. So go ahead.
No, go ahead. You got it.
So keep in mind, as you said, as Joe said, most of the people coming to Ghana are coming from the United States. So they're coming with US passports. So you need to get a visa, or you're coming from Canada or whatever. There's countries that you need a visa. But some people have more than one nationality and you can travel on another passport. Make sure that you carry both your passports with you if you are traveling another passport. And when I say that, what I mean is, for example, there was a year, I think it was in 2021, when someone came to Ghana on their Jamaican passport, because Jamaican passport holders do not need a visa to come to Ghana. And so this person came on his Jamaican passport. Now, when he was going back to the US, he was not being allowed to enter the US because he was carrying his Jamaican passport and he was being asked for a visa because he left his US passport at home. Do not do that, because then you won't be able to get back into your country when you're carrying a passport that requires you to have a visa. So you would show your Jamaica passport when you're coming to Ghana, then when you're going back to the States, you show your US passport or whatever country that is that you're coming from. So make sure you don't make that mistake like this person made, because then this person had to go and try to get an emergency passport from the US embassy in Ghana, because now the person wasn't going to be able to travel back to the US, because the airline was like, where's your visa to come on board to go to the US? And he's like, well, he's American. Well, where's your US passport? And so that's what happened. So make sure you don't make that mistake. There's some of the countries where you do not need a visa to come to Ghana, include Jamaica, as I said, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, and then, of course, the West African countries. If you have passports from the ECOWAS countries, you also don't need a visa to come to Ghana. And I think in other African countries that you don't need are, I think, Botswana, Eswatini, Seychelles. I think South Africa now has a reciprocal relationship with Ghana, that they don't need visas to come. Morocco, the people from Morocco don't need a visa to come to Ghana. Namibians don't need a visa to come to Ghana. So there's different countries. So look into your home country to see if you're one of those countries where you don't need a visa to come to Ghana. But as we know, most of the people coming here are coming from the US, from the UK, from Canada. You all need a visa to come to Ghana.
There it is. Really, really helpful and useful insight. I don't know, something happened. Somebody's spamming the chat, but all right. So moving on to we're spamming the live stream. The numbers look crazy right now. All right. So the Diaspora Summit 2025 is happening December 19th and December 20th. So that is this Friday and Saturday, and it's happening at the Accra International Conference Center. It's called Resetting Ghana, the Diaspora as the 17th Region. The Diaspora Summit 2025 is a global platform convened by the government of Ghana to advance a united call for reparative justice, healing, and restoration of dignity for Africans and people of African descent worldwide, rooted in the understanding that the legacies of slavery, colonialism, racial violence, and systemic disposition continue to shape contemporary economic and social conditions. The summit engages heads of state, thought leaders, scholars, activists, cultural institutions, and diaspora communities in changing the future grounded in justice and historical truth. I'm going to play a little video really quickly to get a little bit of an idea of how it's being promoted, and then we will have some commentary on the other side.
Under the distinguished patronage of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, the President of Ghana's Diaspora Summit will deliver an unforgettable experience as Africans and descendants of Africa worldwide converge on the center of the world for the most anticipated event of the year. Engage in thought-provoking conversations and gain valuable insights on building bridges across the African diaspora for unity, harmony, and prosperity, unlocking and unleashing the potential of Africa and the diaspora, and celebrating our rich culture and heritage. Friday the 19th of December to Saturday the 20th of December 2025 at the Accra International Conference Center in Ghana. Connect, collaborate, and celebrate. Educate, empower, and elevate. Be part of history. The inspiring oratory of influential leaders and changemakers, captivating cultural performances, and spectacular celebration with our global honorees from the African, Caribbean, and diasporan family. We are family. You will love it. Dress code, elegant, African and Caribbean attire encouraged. To attend, register now at www.diasporasummitghana.org. See you in Accra, Ghana.
All right. So, Ivy, your thoughts on the Diaspora Conference?
Well, I think it's going to be a big one, to be quite honest, because I missed the launch event that they did, but the launch event was huge. They had a lot of people who attended the launch. And so I anticipate that the actual event is going to be very big. They actually caused confusion. It was the Minister of Foreign Affairs caused some confusion when at the launch he made an announcement that anybody coming to the Diaspora Summit would be, he said, visa free. But then it turned out that he released a press release maybe a couple of weeks ago that said, if you're going to the Diaspora Summit, you can get your visa without a fee. So basically, if you registered for the Diaspora Summit and you have your proof that you registered, because they send you an email for proof of registration, there's a document that they email you that you would show to the Ghana embassy in your home country, which would allow you to apply for your visa without charges, but you still had to apply for a visa in advance. So that announcement caused a lot of confusion because some people weren't sure, does that mean visa free? Does that mean visa on arrival? What does that mean? But it actually meant exactly what I explained, that when you've registered, your proof of registration, you would show to your Ghana consulate or Ghana embassy in your home country, and then that would allow you to apply for the visa without a charge because you're coming for the Diaspora Summit. At this point, it's too close to do that now if you were thinking about it, because today is the 15th and the summit is on the 19th and 20th, was just a few days away. So, but I think that the summit is going to be big. We'll see how it's going to be this time around, because there have been diaspora type summits over the years under the last government. So let's see how it is under this new government, how it's going to be. I haven't seen any itinerary as of yet to know who's going to be speaking, what is going to be the structure of the program. What I do know is it's happening at the Accra International Conference Center. So I imagine there's probably going to be multiple panel discussions related to diaspora relations. And I know they said there's going to be a lot of government officials in attendance. And it's going to be a formal type of event. So let's see how it goes. I do think that it's going to be a key one, because this is a first big diaspora event under the new government and the new leadership of diaspora affairs. So let's see how it is this time around.
Absolutely. So just a quick view, you go to diasporasummitghana.org, and that will give you all the details of what's happening at the summit. They have recently updated the agenda.
Oh, they just updated, because the agenda wasn't there before.
Oh yeah, this looks like they just updated it recently with all the details of what the order is going to look like. So you're going to have a keynote at 1 p.m. by the president himself. Honorable Mahama. And that's going to be right before lunch. And then you can see the panel discussion. So if you guys want to see what is going to be discussed, just go to diasporasummitghana.org and you'll get the details there. I will be in attendance, hopefully both days. I still work a day job, so it may be difficult for me to be there all day on Friday, because it does end at 6 p.m. local time. So it may be tough for me to be there, but I will attempt to be there all day on Friday, but I will definitely be there on Saturday. And I'm so looking forward to this. This is the reason why I go to Ghana in December, these kinds of events, not for the parties and the clubs. I did that on the year of return. Now for me, it's all about the networking and building, right? To move to the next level and everything that I'm working on, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm all about the meaningful events now. I know lots of people are like, are you doing Dirty December? Are you going to the parties and all this? And I'm like, that's not a priority for me right now. But I know that a lot of people are going to come and have a great time going to the parties, going to the festivals. I really want to be engaged in things that are meaningful. So I'm not even going to be going to a lot of the events. Just going to go to a few. I'm going to be on panel of a couple of events, moderating a panel at an event. So I'm just going to be, at the things that are key for me right now. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's how everybody should think about it. Look, if it's your first time in Ghana, do the Ghana things, right? You got to go to Cape Coast, do what you got to do all the things, go out at night, do all that. But make sure you go to the investment conference or the investment conference, the Diaspora conference, the summit. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, those of you who are on this live stream, right? We're all generally Pan-Africanists to some degree, right? We want to see the advancement of all African people in the continent of Africa, right? What you find with people who attend these events are people who tend to have disposable income, a little bit more affluent a lot of times, people who are intentional about their travel, right? They're not just going on vacation to spend money, but they're coming to Ghana to look at investments, to look at partnerships, and you might be the person with the product or service or the information that they might be looking for, right? And so it's really important to go to these events. Over the last few years, I've met a lot of really interesting people. A lot of my partnerships that I work with, the affiliate programs and things like that, have come from going to these kinds of events. So I absolutely recommend, if you can go, you do go, because without things like this, you know, you operate in silos, and no man is an island, as my mother always says, right? You definitely want to operate and work with other people, because without those folks, it's really hard to advance on the continent. This is a challenging place to operate in. And so partnerships are paramount to progress, you know? So yeah, any other final thoughts on this event before we bring this thing to a close?
I think it's a really good event to go to if you are a member of the diaspora, or if you're a Ghanaian who wants to connect with the diaspora when it comes to the business, when it comes to just even connecting. Because I think part of bridging the gap is the locals also coming together with the diaspora. It's like brothers and sisters coming together. And then for the diaspora, it's a chance for you to get to know about, you know, systems, especially with government officials there. There's going to be conversations that may be beneficial to you when you're trying to start things in Ghana, when you're trying to understand the systems, understand the people. It's a good place to go and network and connect with people. So I think that it's going to be a really good event, to be honest.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. So I saw a couple people saying that they'll be attending. So hopefully we'll be able to catch up in person at this event. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys all there. I want to thank you guys all for joining. You know, we try to do this twice monthly. You know, the next one would be in the new year, it looks like. So depending on the day of the week and the situation that week, I don't know what day of the week it might be. But if we are back, we'll be that first week in the new year. If not, we'll be 2 weeks after that. But we look forward to seeing you guys. Enjoy the holidays, whichever holidays you celebrate.
Yeah.
You know, to all the different denominations of all the things. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you celebrate, happy holidays to you guys. This live stream will not be back before those end of December holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. Happy holidays.
There it is. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you haven't already, follow Ivy on all platforms, follow Authentic African on all platforms. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channels. Those things you can do for free to support the channels. If you want to support us in any other ways, they will be in the description as well. However you can support, we greatly appreciate it. And with that, thanks for watching. See you guys all in the next video.
Bye for now.